morning. Good morning to music. Good morning and welcome to Atlanta A&T University Marching Band Training. If you are here, it is because you have a fervent, unequivocal belief in teamwork. Section leaders, what is our concept?
One band, one sound.
One band, one sound.
One band, one sound.
One band, one sound.
Dubious to samples, band with a little twist. Salty or sweet, pair it up with some little mints. So go for hummus, got a feeling you love it. The savory flavors are coming together as one and all makes above us. Switched again, Kirkland's is a big cheese. Roll gold, show cold, it's on the lean. Grab a handle of Snyder's as you're riding the tiger. Coney and dreaming into Bavarian meaning. And Germany's.
Hey everyone, and welcome to our Thursday live stream. Our guest today is the co-founder of Big Picture Casting, one of Atlanta's biggest casting companies for commercial TV and film. She's here today to give you some insight into the Atlanta market and answer your questions. Please welcome Rita Harrell.
Hello. Hi. Hi.
Hi. How are you doing?
Good. Hanging in. Pandemic style. We're here. Yeah.
Just hanging out at home like everybody else.
That's right here in my office. So
It's a weird time that I'm sure we'll remember forever. Thanks for joining us. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah.
So we might as well just go ahead and get started. So your casting career didn't start in Atlanta. Early on in your career, you did stage casting in New York for institutions like the Public Theater and New York Theater Workshop. How is stage casting different than what you do now?
Well, first of all, it was 20 years ago that I did casting in New York, or almost 20 years ago. So as you can imagine, technology has come an extremely long way in that time. But, the community up there is very tight-knit, I would say, similar to Atlanta in that way. But everybody knows each other. It's small. It's a lot harder to break into, I think, than the Atlanta market as far as, you really have to gain big credits early on to get noticed in this stage market or come out of one of those larger programs to break in up there. Whereas I think there's a bit more opportunity. It's a little more, free for all in Atlanta, if you will.
Yeah. So you've been casting for a while, and you were casting in Atlanta long before this major boom happened.
Yeah.
How has the local scene changed for actors since you first started?
Wow, I mean, it is just a whole different ball game. It's changed for everybody, but I think for actors, it's gone through sort of a journey. So, like when the works first started to pick up, everybody who was here already and was local was like getting work. They've never had these opportunities before. All these jobs were coming in, and they were booking, and then other people started coming in, right? So then, and this has happened for everyone, those opportunities started getting kind of snipped away a little bit at a time, and people from other markets are coming in, taking some of those larger jobs. But, I think it's starting to even out. The cream is rising to the top from the local people who were already here, and the cream is rising to the top from the people who moved here, too. They're not everybody who moves here is from another market is automatically embraced and finding that they're getting jobs right away, but the really good ones are. So
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. I would imagine that it's just so competitive now. With so many people. I'll talk to people all the time, and they're just like, yeah, I'm thinking about moving to Atlanta. I'm thinking about moving to Atlanta. So
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And, it's one of those things where I think there might be a little bit of a false perception out there that it's got really easy to break into.
Yeah.
Because honestly, 1 or 2 or 3 years ago, it was really easy to break into, and that is shifting rapidly. It's just becoming a lot more competitive. And so hopefully people are really taking that into consideration before just, renting their U-Haul.
For just showing up. Yep.
Yeah, just like hauling all their stuff.
I'm here for all the jobs.
Yeah, where are they?
So for a while, you also worked as an agent at People Store. How did that experience help you as a casting director?
Well, so when I moved down from New York, I went right to work at People Store. I went from casting in New York to People Store. So that's how I learned the market, honestly. That's how I learned about working in a right-to-work state, which is a big change, and also about, just learning how the market worked down here. So yeah, that's how I got familiar with the Atlanta market in general. But when I moved over to casting, I would say my experience as an agent has made me much more empathetic to the agents and working with them. I think if you ask the agents in town, they would tell you that our office is somewhat forgiving when it comes to, we understand what they're going through, and we're certainly on their side 100% because they're our colleagues, and we're part of a team together as far as the way we see it. So
yeah, I think that's great because it's unique to have been on both sides and really be able to empathize with the hard work that an agency has to go through day in and day out.
Dude, man, that's a really hard job. And if you're lucky enough to have an agent, just be nice to them. That's the way I think of it, because they are busting their hump for you. And they catch the most crap from anyone, so they really need that love. Give them a Starbucks card, whatever.
Yeah. Shout out to all the Atlanta agencies.
That's right.
And People Store and Rick, if you're watching.
Rick.
Good old Rick.
All those Atlanta agents.
All those Atlanta agents. They're all amazing. So your company is unique in that you'll cast commercials, television, and film projects. What's the biggest difference between casting a commercial versus a theatrical job?
So, the thing that jumps out at you immediately, and this is for anybody who works in more than one of those mediums, is that the speed of that you're working at. So, commercial is like, we can be in and out of a commercial in like a 5-day period. So we get the job and it is done and cast in over 5 days later or 4 days later. I mean, it just goes super fast, too fast many times, way too fast. And then, TV, there's been times when we've been working on a series where I'm like, is this show still on the air? Why are we still casting for this? It feels like we've been working on this forever. So that the speed that you're working is completely different. And that, because of the speed, means your workflow changes and who you can see and how many people you can see and the way you see them changes as well. So, but that's the biggest difference. That's what dictates all the differences down the line. It's just the speed that you're working. So
yeah, you'll hear that often from actors, like, why am I getting this, casting notice the night before? It's like, well, I got it. You just got it.
I got the job 1 hour ago. It's like, there'll be times where I'm on the phone with a producer entering the breakdown in as they're telling me, we think we're going to have this job, and I'm typing it in as we're going because I need to be able to hit submit, send to agents immediately when I get off the phone because we got to roll, we got to cast the next day or something horrible like that. So believe me, we give it to the actors as soon as we possibly can and the agents because we never sit on stuff. That's not worth it to us. So, yeah.
How important is learning improv when it comes to auditioning? We've heard that mentioned before, but how important do you think it is?
I mean, if you are at all interested in working in any kind of comedic area in film and television or commercial work, improv's so helpful. It helps you in the audition process. It help, depending on the director, it can help you in on the set, roll with things because you never know what you're going to get. It just helps you be a lot more malleable and flexible. It's extremely helpful in my mind. That being said, I have seen improv actors who do exclusively improv struggle in auditions because sometimes they struggle with being able to deliver once without any improv, without that button on the end, without their kind of twist to the script. And then they'll leave the room and the whole team will be like, yeah, but I don't think they can deliver it without the improv or without the button or whatever. And we're looking around going, no one asked them to do that. Nobody asked them to do that. So oftentimes I'll tell this to actors, you need to be able to at least deliver it one time in the room on script because somebody spent a lot of money paying 10 other people to check and approve and cross the T's and dot the I's on that script. They're going to want to hear their words.
Right.
And another time that can be also applicable is if it's a writer-director on a film and TV project. So like they're directing you in the room and they've written it, there might be a little more precious with their words, so you want to be cognizant of that going into the room, that you could improv, but you likely are going to want to deliver it the way they've written it as well. So. Oh,
that's great. Are there local spots that you often visit to discover new talent, whether it be at an improv place or anywhere else?
So it kind of varies. Like, I like to go to improv shows at like the Village Theater or Dad's Garage. Those are two of the bigger ones. But another way that we see new people, and also just theater in general in Atlanta is a great way to see people. But I would also say that we do try to, when we can, go to like showcases at the acting schools and at the different venues around that are producing kind of smaller showcase type work. We'll oftentimes try to attend those to see people as well. But because we do a ton of commercial casting too, we see a lot of new faces all the time because of that. So we're seeing because it's such a quick process. Boom, 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 boom. We're bringing in new people all the time. Yeah. So we're seeing them live and in person quite frequently.
Yeah, there's a good amount of regional theaters in Atlanta as well. I believe, right?
Yeah, there's the Alliance Theater is the largest theater, and that's usually the one that gets the most national attention. They pull a lot out of New York casting as well. I think for a while Pat McCorkle was doing their casting, but there are plenty of smaller ones too. There's Actors Express, Theatrical Outfit. There's even some theaters out in sort of the suburbs that do a lot of work. Aurora has like a ton of money and they do a ton of work. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity to work in many different mediums here, I think.
That's great. So everyone understands that you'll use software to cast your projects, but sometimes you have to go outside of that. So you might have a unique role that you have to cast where you go outside your traditional methods to find that actor. Do you have an example of that, of where you had to kind of go way outside to find someone?
Yeah, that happens more than you would think, actually. I remember the first job I ever worked on in New York. This was pre-technology, but it was a play that had a whole cast of Filipino actors, and they had me like, I fresh off the boat from Atlanta to New York, and I was like, okay, what do I do? They're like, call all of these Filipino organizations in Queens and ask them if anybody wants to come audition for our play. I was like, oh, okay. fun.
Yeah.
So, that was my first introduction to it. But now technologically, obviously, I'm not like on the phone with the, rec center in Queens. Instead, now I'm putting it out on Facebook or whatnot. And so, we just cast a real musical duo for a commercial, and and they wanted a female stand-up bass player, like a big bass.
Yeah.
And so we were just reaching out far and wide on social media, looking for like a female stand-up bass player duo, real duo who could perform. And I was like, calling my high school orchestra teacher to ask him if he knew anybody, and all of these things. So yeah, we definitely, it's kind of a Malcolm Gladwell job. The connectors, you're the connector. You reach out and you connect people. That's what we're doing every day. It's saying, oh, I remember I have that guy I know who knows those people, and we're using those connections all the time. So
I think that just goes to show how stressful and chaotic your job can be.
It can be, but it's also, can be the more fun situations because, it's like, well, let's just see what happens and see who shows. And then we have, 15 female stand-up bassists in our office one Friday, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's got to be rewarding when you get those kind of roles that are, hard to find like that. And you're like, here's 10 of them. That we found.
It is. It's very rewarding. Yeah, they're like, we need hip hop women who dance point ballet, but to like hip hop music, and we're like, I have no idea where to find that. Well, a week later, I'm an expert on it. I've called everybody in the city to try to find these women, and we found them. We know who they are now. So
you're the go-to for that now.
Yeah, and many other things.
One of the shows that you've cast, which I really like, is Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell, which has a very unique style, if anyone hasn't seen it. How do you suggest actors find the tone of something that they're auditioning for? Because that's something that I think it would be hard or easy to get wrong, I should say.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It is very easy to get wrong. It's a very, very specific kind of humor, and people don't get it a lot of the time. But so the guys who created that show are local Atlanta guys, and they have done a lot of work with Adult Swim, and so their work is like online. You can see it. You can Google their names and see what they've worked on and watch their show. So then you will have a much better sense of what their sensibility is after watching a few of their, Squidbillies episodes or whatever. And which is animation, so it's a little different, but it's a tone. It's an overall humor, right?
Yeah.
And so and honestly, Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell is online as well. So you could watch the show and have a sense of it and know that they're not going to respond to a giant over the top read where they like everything really dry and kind of underplayed. It's dry and underplayed, but in a super weird situation.
Yeah,
so,
it's like you're in hell, but everyone's just kind of blasé about what's going on. Yeah, it's like,
there's a giant spider killing that guy over there. So, and people miss that all the time. They play, oh my God, there's a giant spider over there.
Yeah.
And that's not what it is. So, but you can watch the show and know, not doing your research is just unexcusable in our market, in this day and age of technology. It's inexcusable. Yeah. There's too much information available for you to not just look it up. So
yeah, and you could probably do the same thing with commercials as well, in terms of if you're looking at how they their tone of their commercials. A lot of commercials have a specific tone as well.
That's so true. And a lot of times you're not going to have all the information on a commercial because, again, it moves so quickly. So you won't know who the director is necessarily when you're going in for that first call. However, we cast a lot of Georgia Lottery commercials. We happen to do a lot of those. Those are online. get a sense of like what they're responding to and give a couple takes that are in that wheelhouse, So yeah, it's right. It's all available.
And I've also seen that with commercials, they tend to have, they'll go through stages where like, this is really popular right now to have the sarcastic girl or whatever it is. And so you can kind of look at trends in the industry and base it off that as well.
100%. Whatever. Oh my God. Pandemic is an excellent example of that. Is every commercial you watch is like light piano music with like, we understand that this is a hard time for you. And if you're going to be doing a voiceover audition right now, you know what they're going for because it's on every commercial.
Right.
You can very easily figure out what that tone is. So, but yes, understanding the trends in commercials currently is a big deal. By the way, I would like some funny commercials soon. Yeah. So I hope somebody steps up with that.
Some non-sad piano music.
Yeah, figure it out. Like figure out a way to make that work. Now we're done with the sad piano music. We're moving on.
That's great. So you're part of a casting duo with the wonderful Jen Kelly. How are you two different, and in what ways do you feel the two of you best complement each other?
So we work together at People Store as well. So when we started the company, we knew that we already worked well together. We're both very detail oriented. Have similar work ethic. I think that's a big deal in a partnership. You need to have a similar work ethic in that so nobody gets resentful of the other person at all. Like, oh, you're not pulling your weight, or you're overdoing it, and I don't need to work that hard. Whatever that is. So I think we're on the same plane that way. We're different in that. I mean, Jen is really, really funny. She is so whip smart and funny, but she's more reserved about it and definitely, kind of slips it in when nobody's listening, just kind of slips in a dry joke here and there. And then people, if you're paying attention, you're like, whoa, that was hilarious. But I'm more extroverted with, getting in people's, being a little more gregarious. Not to say she's not friendly. She certainly is. But I think she's just a little more reserved.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There's got to be challenges with that as well. What's the biggest challenge of working as a duo or a partnership?
I think the biggest challenge is honestly just accepting that the other person might have a different opinion than you do about which way to go with a role or a director or with a direction in the room or whatever it might be. And accepting that, that doesn't mean you're wrong or she's wrong because it's such a subjective job, So, accepting the other person's opinion and taking it in and knowing that, contributing both those ideas can only help us.
Yeah.
It's such a subjective job. So,
any suggestions for actors, and there's a lot of them, who are considering moving to Atlanta? Is there one piece of advice that you'd like to give or more than that?
I would like to tell the people moving from LA not to overpay for a house here. Okay. You're driving up our prices. Yeah. It's getting out of control. No. I think my suggestion would be, and this is kind of simple, but be aware of how you're presenting yourself. A lot of times we get these emails that's like, I'm an LA trained actor, blah, 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 leading with the idea that LA is better or New York is better than Atlanta. If you lead with that idea, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot because everybody down here hates that, Yeah. I had a director say the other day, look at us and go, no offense, but she's just Atlanta good. And then we were like, just kind of stared at him and he was like, I said no offense. And we were like, well, I'm still offended. That's still offensive. You can't just say no offense. And, so my point is don't come in with this chip on your shoulder of like, I'm going to be able to come in and get jobs and this and that because I'm from this market where you're trained and I know what I'm doing. I think you really have to come in with a sense of humility and humbleness because you're not a part of this market yet. Confidence, of course, is great. We want you to be confident and bring what you can to this market, but don't assume and don't lead with your ego, I guess. But I think that's a good lesson for every life period, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think in general that's always that's good life advice.
Right.
Which is really what we're here to do today.
That's right.
So I'll go into some of the emailed questions that came in.
Yeah. Okay.
So first one that I have is, I know the Atlanta filming community prides itself on having its own homegrown identity. As someone trying to be more involved, is there a website or a group you recommend joining?
Yeah, that's interesting. So that kind of talks about what I was just talking about, right? Like they do pride themselves on being homegrown and insular-ish, I guess would be the word for it. I don't know. So one thing you can do is there's GPP, which is the Georgia Production Partnership. Now, back in the day, it used to be super small, and you could go to these GPP meetings once a month, and you would just sit and you could meet everybody in town at a GPP meeting. Done, no problem. Now, not so much, right? Like, there's a lot more people, and they're not attended as much. Blah blah blah. But still, I think GPP is a valuable resource. They throw mixers and the Atlanta Film the festival, if it happens again soon.
Right.
See, these are things that, like, I don't know how they're going to happen. I think GPP is happening virtually now, but is that helpful for somebody who's new to town? I don't know. Atlanta Film Festival, if it happens, though, is a great place to go and network. There's a Facebook group that is online that has a pretty good membership of people who are local who can give local advice. But I would say look into those. Join a few of the Atlanta film community Facebook groups. They seem to be pretty active and pretty open with good advice. It's the internet, so there's always going to be some bull crap happening. But, but there's good stuff happening on there too. So yeah, I would look up some of those Facebook groups and try to get involved with those as soon as possible. And you can ask questions there too. People are really free flowing with the advice when it comes to like where to live and how should I do and where should I train and all of that stuff before you move. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
They want some more advice. So advice for talent looking to get into the Atlanta market, seeking representation from out of town. So I want to get representation before I move.
Right. So I'm not there yet, but I want to get an agent.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say 2 or 3 years ago, again, this was a thing. You could do this. You could be in LA and have a agent in Atlanta and do a lot of self-taping. And then what would happen is you would say, I can work as a local hire. And then you would have to get yourself here. Well, people got burned by that, like a lot, right? Like the casting directors got burned, the agents got burned, the productions got burned because like people would say that and then they would change their mind and realize, oh my God, no, I can't make it there. Or the dates would change and they wouldn't be able to get there in time, or they wouldn't be able to get there for the fitting. Anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah.
It became a whole rigmarole. So now agents are far less likely to take you on. If you're in like a regional area, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida even, it's more doable. If you're in LA or New York, not so much. It's just everything happens too fast. We don't have time for that. And nobody does. But it would be the same, just picture if I was like, hey, New York agent, I live in Atlanta and I want to work on, would they do that for me? No, they would not. So it's a real market now. They don't need you as much as they used to. And there are still a few agents in town who will do it, I think, but they're fewer and further between, and likely they're going to be like newer agents. So there might be a trade-off there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Get your U-Haul ready. And don't overpay for your house.
Yeah. Third question is, what is something that actors do to make your job harder or more difficult?
Mm-hmm. Let me narrow it down. Not having your casting network's profile fully up to date. Really difficult.
Yeah.
No, but there are simple things like that, though. It sounds silly, but like real simple things like not having things up to date, not having your materials up to date, not fully checking your ticket when it's sent to you, and so you miss the scripts or the change of script, or just not having a full attention to detail. And this happens often in commercials because people are like, oh, it's just a commercial audition. I'll just show up and do it. And it's without preparing. And I'll just look at the script when I get there. And then they get there and realize it's like 2 pages or of a spokesperson. Things that are just silly and unavoidable. So what does that come down to? How do we give a short answer to that? Do your homework. Be prepared.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
Prepared and do your homework. And kind of going along with that, well, kind of not really. Fourth question is, what is the most common self-tape mistake you see?
Yeah. So this is probably a tie. This is something that happens in Atlanta a lot, which is like, you don't have a reader, and so you use like your mom or your grandma or something as your reader. Oof. I mean, and it's, a lot of times they have like a real thick accent down here. And it's terrible. But, so here's the thing. That can be overcome with like an amazing audition, but why put yourself in that situation? Why do that? Just, if you possibly can, just start a little co-op with your friends, and I'll read for you and you read for me, and that sort of thing. Like, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
And with commercial self-tapes, it's like people just go off the rails and do way too much. Like they'll record it like on a set, like if it takes place in the kitchen, they'll record it in their kitchen. Or if it means they're moving furniture, they'll pick up a couch and move it across their living room. And, things that are like, it's too much. It's still an audition. We don't need you to shoot the whole commercial. It's fine. Just do the thing we asked you to do in front of the blank background with the good lights, and we can hear you, please. Just keep it simple, stupid. Because commercial auditions, it's often, they're difficult to self-tape. And people, when they try to do it, can go off the rails. So yeah, that was a 2-parter. I don't know.
Yeah, no, keep it simple. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Another thing that's good life advice. Not just good acting advice. So now we have a lot of questions that have come in.
Okay.
So,
okay. Are they all about Atlanta? Moving to Atlanta?
They're all about moving to Atlanta. Every single one.
Perfect.
I'm going to bring some up on here and we'll get started.
Okay. So
Liza asked, is having a social media presence in terms of casting really a thing?
Really a thing. Okay, so in our market, it has not become that much of a thing yet. Although I do think it could help you, like if you have a huge social media presence, that might help you secure an agent to a degree because they're aware that it's a thing in LA and New York, I don't think it's a thing in that it won't necessarily get you to the final, like you have to have a good performance to get you in the mix. So it won't necessarily get you in the mix, but if you're in the mix and you have a great following, that every little thing can help push you over the edge. You know, you never know what little thing can push you over the edge. And then I have done a few projects where they were specifically looking for social media influencers to be involved in the project. A couple web series that we did, it was specifically, you know, wanting to involve social media influencers, and then also a weirdly animated series that really wanted social media influencers. And I think that had to do with something in their marketing plan, you know, but that was established beforehand. And so when we were doing the search, we were specifically looking for people with large social media followings.
Okay.
It's not going to make or break your career at this point, but, you know, it might be something that can help put you over the edge. But it takes a lot of work. Like, what are you wanting to focus on? Do you want to be a social media influencer, or do you want to be an actor? Like, I do think there's still two different things.
Yeah, it makes sense. Sometimes it can feel like a job just itself, just like, oh, I gotta update and have something else funny or witty to say every day or several times a day. And
I mean, people make a lot of money doing that stuff. So, you know, which is it? Which is your job? And if you decide you want to be a social media influencer, then great, no problem. That's good. That's good. Maybe you'll get some acting jobs out of it. But that's not. It's one. In my mind, you should focus on one or the other.
Great.
Okay.
Tracy asked, does casting look at reels on casting networks? How important are reels?
How important are reels? Okay, this goes back to the speed of the job that we talked about at the very beginning. So on a commercial, I'm likely not looking at your reel unless it's something that it's like really specific and I need to know if you can play the stand-up bass and you happen to have a clip of that on your reel. You know, maybe they'll look at it then. But it's not part of my natural workflow to look at the reels. However, if you're going to cast like a guest spot on a show and you are not familiar with the person and you want to know if you should take them to the next level, like put them in the mix for your selects to send on, and you don't know them that well, you're certainly going to be looking at their reel. Now, it actually, if you don't have a reel, you might not make it to that next level, to that next round, if you will. So, yeah.
So another thing that can help. Art wanted to know, could you quantify the level of casting opportunities for older actors?
Quantify?
Or just, you know, what are the casting opportunities for seniors, I guess?
Seniors. Commercially, there's a ton of work in Atlanta for seniors. And we need that market. Like we're always looking for new, strong actors in the senior bracket. So I feel like if you are looking to work commercially, great. So this goes back, so for film and TV, there's that pool of people who are already here that are working and are doing really senior actors who have been here a long time and are in, you know, like in the market. So you have to bust through those people to get work as a senior actor here. And obviously there are less senior roles. So it's tricky. Commercially, yes. Film and television, it'll be tougher to break in.
Gotcha.
That's the short answer.
The Life of Kids wants to know, do you have specific agencies you contact when looking for talent? And if so, which ones?
This is my not favorite question, right? Because I'm not going to ever, like, publicly on the internet talk about my favorite agents. Like, that would be stupid. Yeah. But I will tell you, in general, we reach out to everyone in the Southeast for our projects. Commercially, if we have travel, it's everyone in the Southeast. And if we don't have travel, then it's just everyone in the Atlanta market. But there are no agents that we just don't work with. The only time we stop working with an agent is when they stop responding to our stuff. Like if they quit responding and stop submitting, then clearly we're not going to work with them. But it's not about it's not about, at some point, once we know you, it's not about your agent. We're going to call you in regardless of who you're with once we know you. Like, we're clicking on you and picking you, not because of who you're with. It might help you get in the door with certain agents that we have had long-term relationships with, who have been around the Atlanta market for a long time, and we know and trust them. But we work with everybody in town.
That's great. So. James wants to know, going along with that question, do Atlanta agents freelance, or do you have to sign with one?
Ooh. Yeah, they don't freelance here, so you'll have to sign. I think that some of them, varies from place to place, can do like a trial period. But it used to be the Wild West here, and you could just be with one agent for print and one for film and television and one for commercial, and have 3 agents repping you for industrials. And it was crazy and super confusing. And so then all the agents started going, you have to sign with us across the board for everything. Now it's airing back a little bit the other way, where you can be with one agent, a little more like the LA market setup, where you can be with one agent for commercial and one agent for film and TV. But even that, they prefer to have you across the board and everything. It's because it's a market based on volume. Like if they're like repping you for commercial and you're making a ton of money for that, they don't want to lose you for that and then keep you on for film and TV where you're not booking as much. They need you to be making money somewhere for them. So anyway, yeah, they won't do that as much.
That's good.
Yeah.
What is the ideal length for an actor's demo reel?
Short. Real short. Attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. It's like a TikTok video. That's what we want to see. No,
you don't want a 10-minute reel?
No, not a 10-minute reel. But I would say under 2 minutes, please. Even better if you can hit me with your good stuff in under a minute. That'd be great. Yeah.
Is a commercial, this from Lydia,
yes,
and corporate video compilation, if that's all you have, something you can use for a reel?
You can, but it won't necessarily, it's not going to help. It'll help me get you in the door, but it won't help you when you get to that point where you're like up for a guest star booking and they need to show your reel. But it could help get you in the door for someone. But yeah, you want to start working towards getting that film and television material sooner rather than later. I mean, of course, we're all working toward that, but it's better to have the material that you're actually auditioning for. Like, it's even better if you have a comedy short and a drama short, so then I can pick from that.
Arthur wants to know, as far as IMDB, how important is it to have one, and is it okay to refer casting personnel to it for your reel? Let's just say, how important is it? Like, how often are you looking at IMDB credits?
I think that they're pretty important. I mean, I think people pull them up more than you would think. Also, there's some softwares that it links to your IMDB, so there's that. Mm-hmm. So you want to be aware of that. Like in lieu of a resume, that's what it's linking to. So you need it. But I don't know about a reel. I haven't used IMDb for reels. That hasn't been part of my workflow. But there's so many casting directors out there that I'm sure someone does that. I can't say how prevalent it is. I don't know. Yeah.
Kendall wants to know, I might reword this question a little bit. If an actor lives out of state but has representation in Atlanta, will you accept? So let's say they have Atlanta representation, but the rep has told you that they're, not located in Atlanta.
Yeah. Listen, if you have worked out something with your agent and I trust your agent, like that they're going to make it happen, then yeah, I'll still see you. You know what I mean? But don't screw me over, because then, then if that was your last shot, it's kind of a one-shot deal. Like, you mess it up once and it's going to be a problem. So proceed with caution. Yes. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
good.
But I'll see you. Yeah.
This is a lofty question. Anya
Okay.
wants to know, will Atlanta meet or surpass Los Angeles, or will LA always be the place to be for actors?
Oh, yeah, In my honest opinion, I do not think Atlanta will surpass LA. But I think our quality will only increase and it'll get better and better. But honestly, I don't think it will surpass. There's just too much history and infrastructure that we will not be able to match. Unless, like, till we're all dead. And it won't matter to you.
Oh, boy. I hope I'm saying your name right. Anaya said, what do you enjoy casting more, commercials or film or TV?
That's a good question, Naya. Thank you. I think I really do like working in TV because I love TV. Like, I love it. I love television. It's real good. So I enjoy working in television. I also like that that's kind of like an in-between of all of them, meaning movies are sort of like running a marathon, and commercial might be like your sprint, and TV is going to be like your 10K. Yeah, like I like the 10K. Like, it's kind of in between. Little smaller pieces each episode. Although so many things block shoot now, you're often doing 3 or 4 episodes at a time. But still, it's a little more manageable. And I just like the arc of it, meaning getting the new scripts, working through the arc of the season. Yeah. So I would say TV, but I'm not picky. We'll take what we can get, especially during a global pandemic.
Great answer. If an agent keeps sending you out for auditions, but you fail to book, wouldn't the agent stop sending you, even though the percentage of booking is small for most people? So this might be kind of more of a question for when you were an agent, but like, you have an actor that you're sending all the time, they're not booking anything. Would you feel like maybe I shouldn't send this actor, or is that not true?
No, I don't think you do that because it can take a long time for somebody to catch on. And if they keep getting called in by the casting director, that means they're doing something right. So if I would always keep submitting them, it's the casting director who's deciding who they're seeing. And if the casting director keeps calling them in, then they're not embarrassing you. You know what I mean? So, and there's not really a limit on how many people you submit. Agents submit a ton of people who are not right for things sometimes. They just want you to get that face in front of you. So yeah, I think you have to be patient, and agents are aware of that. They know that you have to be patient. People can get called in. I had one lady in my office not too long ago too, and she was like, I just never have gotten a call back for you, but you keep calling me in. Am I doing anything wrong? And I was like, you've never gotten a call back even? And she was like, no, I haven't. And then literally the next job, she got a call back. And I was like, see, you were fine. You just needed to stick with it. Just be patient, and get your confidence up and get more comfortable in the room, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. So
yeah, it's a process, and
yeah,
you gotta stick with it. KB said, with the new normal of COVID-19, will you be moving even more to virtual auditions, like Zoom auditions, for callbacks and auditions?
Yeah,
I said that weird, but
yeah.
Continue.
No, I got it. It was like, yes, but yeah, it's looking that way. It's looking like we were actually talking about the logistics of having an in-person callback. Like, obviously not now, but when that happens, we were just kind of like, what could we do? And, we were thinking, well, we certainly wouldn't be able to pair people up anymore in the room. It would have to be a single person. We could bring people in one at a time in the waiting room and space it out. So it would have to be a lot smaller auditions. But honestly, my guess is the first thing that will happen, that will be down the line, the in-person stuff and with precautions. But the first thing that's going to happen will be self-tapes for the first few rounds and then Zoom callbacks. And we'll see how that goes because technology, y'all.
It should be so much fun.
So much fun.
Lauren asked, are there more opportunities for lead and supporting roles for minority actors in Atlanta?
Yeah, I think they're all, well, as compared to another market.
Like maybe compared to like LA or New York or...
Well, I think everything is moving towards more opportunities for minority actors all over that we're seeing. But yeah, I would say because there's a decent amount of minority-driven content coming out of Atlanta, that probably it would correlate and there would be more opportunity. I can't say that officially because I don't have like those numbers, obviously, yeah. But just as an observational thing, yeah, it does seem like, I saw there's a new Tyler Perry show coming out that looks like one of his drama shows, and it's called, I can't remember, it's about 3 dudes. Anyway, it's like a bro show, like bros, but not called bros. Anyway, but two of the 3 guys that are the lead guys are from Atlanta. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, those guys wouldn't have booked it likely out of New York or LA. They got the attention, they got the opportunity because they're here. So
great.
Yeah.
Sophia asked, in a wide search, does a casting office actually view all submissions? Is it essential to submit early?
Yes. And yes. In a wide search, we do generally view everything. In my office, I can't speak to all offices, but yes, we watch everything, even though it can be extremely tedious. And yeah, the sooner it's in is the better. If you can get it in and maintain your quality, get it in sooner rather than later. Don't sacrifice your quality for it. Like, don't do it unprepared and don't do it on the fly without a good setup or whatnot, but sooner rather than later. Because, there will be times where the deadline changes and we need everything sooner and we have to just send what we have. So, yeah.
Awesome. So we have time for maybe 2 more questions.
Okay.
So I'm going to see what kind of questions we have. This one from Jim. Do you work regularly with Raleigh-based agents or do you limit that reach?
Oh, Raleigh. We do. We work with Raleigh-based agents a lot. Generally, the way it works, though, like I was mentioning earlier, is we certainly work with them on anything where we have travel included. But if it's local, we might not reach out to them just because we assume that they don't want to send their people down to us for no travel money. Unless, now caveat that, it's a super well-paying job or it's a pretty narrow bracket where we need to see people from out of town. We would just throw it at them anyway and just be like, hey, anybody you want that you think is right, send them on down to us. But we have relationships with those agents, certainly, yes. So in other words, they could pitch you to us if they wanted to. Yes.
I think this is a good question to end on.
Okay.
So are you typically in association with a casting office outside of Atlanta, like in Los Angeles or New York, or do you collaborate with casting offices in other areas?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, on film and television projects, there's typically a New York or an LA casting that we are working in conjunction with. Not always. Like we've done some things where we are main casting, but we just happen to be casting it out of Atlanta and reaching out to New York or LA. That's less common. Typically, there's going to be a New York or an LA casting on it. That's for film and television. On commercials, it's usually just us. But if the job is particularly finicky or their production companies based in New York or LA and they want to pull in people from New York or LA, we'll sometimes be working in conjunction with them on commercials. But that's less collaborative and more just like you send some people, we'll send some people, they'll pick who they want to see kind of thing. So
Great.
yeah.
So I think that is a lot. You've
Yeah.
you've talked for a very long time, so we'll and so I will let you go. But thank you
Great.
so much for being with us. Thank you everybody who is here asking questions and tuning in. Had a really great time, and stay safe. Wash your hands, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Nice to see you.